Today we got the Hulk from the MCU take on the Rampage Monsters, the original Wrecking Crew. Who comes out on top? Let's find out. Bruce Banner was a bioscientist tasked with working on an updated version of the Super Soldier Serum, using gamma radiation as the activation trigger instead of Vita rays. After injecting himself with the serum, Bruce didn't become the next Captain America, pinnacle of human potential. Instead, the Hulk was born, a huge, rage-fueled monster with incredible strength. He has since become a founding member of the Avengers, one of the most respected heroes on Earth. Originally, Bruce Banner was forced to transform into the Hulk when his heart reaches 200 beats a minute, but he has since learned how to control the beast. He can actually transform into the Hulk at will. He will also transform into the Hulk whenever he's in danger, even when he seemingly died, with the perfect example being when Bruce jumped out of the ship and landed on the Rainbow Bridge. Hulk's greatest asset is obviously his physical strength, and he is easily one of the strongest characters in the whole MCU. He's strong enough to easily destroy military vehicles, throwing them around like he was throwing out a softball, destroy bunkers just by running straight through them, overpower and choke out Abomination, and he's matched Thor in strength and actually smashed both Loki and Thor. Hulk is able to strike from Thor cold, palm of his hand, middle Leviathan of his pure physical strength, and dented and smashed Leviathan armor. That being said, the Iron Man would actually run out of power before he did that same armor. Hulk is also able to throw a seriously powerful punch, sending Ultron flying halfway across the city with one punch, pounded Abomination to the pavement, and punched Thor so hard, beginning to see visions of his dead father. He's also destroyed Leviathan of one good solid punch, and actually staggered Surtur to the size of a mountain. Just one hit. Then, along with his incredible strength, Hulk is also ridiculously durable. A sword rifle fire just bounces off his skin, miniguns 50 cal bullets don't even bother him, and aircraft fire only goes on to make him mad. He's able to take repeated punches and attacks from Thor, even with Mjolnir, or when he was in his awakened form, he take repeated attacks from Abomination, who should be close to his physical equal. He's even thrown by Surtur, dropped to a skyscraper by Hulkbuster, and beat down by Thanos. Hulk is even surprisingly fast, being able to catch Mjolnir, block attacks from Thor, jump to Ultron's flying city, and save Iron Man, and is even able to do some limited parkour. So, that's what we got in one corner. Hulk from the MCU, the Green Goliath. But, into the ring, near the corner, George, Ralph, and Lizzie, the Rampage Monsters, the original Wrecking Crew. George was a normal albino silverback gorilla. But after being sprayed with an unknown serum, he transformed into a monstrous gorilla with super strength, durability, and speed. At its highest point of his power, he was strong enough to casually throw on military vehicles like toys, and easily lifted a helicopter with one hand. He even threw a tank into a helicopter and knocked the building over. And then his battle against Ralph and Lizzie, he's able to throw Ralph very far and hit Lizzie a part of a construction crane, sending her flying into a building. George is also durable enough to fall from a skyscraper, be bitten and dragged around by both Ralph and Lizzie and still keep on fighting, essentially bulletproof, and able to take an airstrike. He's also fast and agile enough to evade military jet fire, and climb up and scale down skyscrapers. Then we have Ralph, who was a wolf before being hit with serum, turned into a monstrous giant super wolf. Ralph is strong enough to be able to handle and hold down George with little difficulty. He is durable enough to take explosions to the face and keep on fighting, and is much faster than the other two, able to easily outpace both George and Lizzie. Ralph also developed retractable skin flaps, allowing him to fly and glide like a flying squirrel. He has large porcupine-like quills on his back and tail he uses to shoot or impale enemies. Ralph is also a better fighter than George, probably because he lived in the wild and knew more about survival than George did from living in captivity. Then, finally, last but certainly not least, we've got Lizzie. Being a crocodile, Lizzie is much larger than the other monsters, and actually able to handle both George and Ralph at the same time. She's strong enough to easily flip over military vehicles and plow through the sides of buildings. Then she's got an impressive bite force, able to casually crush helicopters, severely maul George, absolutely manhandle, and actually decapitate Ralph. Lizzie's also a lot more durable than other monsters, as she shrugged off a building falling on her, easily take attacks from George, entire belt of grenades going off in her gills only makes her stumble. and of her large size, she is considerably slower than other monsters, but is still maneuverable enough to climb up the sides of buildings. So who wins? Well, let's break it down. Now, y'all know I love me some Rampage Monsters, mostly because they consistently get good views. We've already thrown this wrecking crew up against King Kong and Godzilla, but today we're diving into the MCU and throwing Hulk into the mix, the Green Goliath himself. So who's coming out on top? That's what we're going to find out. Now, first things first, physicality. I know that's going to be the entire crux of the fight. Neither Hulk nor the Rampage monsters are intelligent fighters. They don't really have any additional powers or abilities outside of their superhuman strength and durability. So with that being said, let's start off by taking a look at the Hulk. Well, just by walking, he's trying to crack concrete. He's able to toss military vehicles like they were softballs, easily catch and throw tanks, suplex Fenris the Wolf, who weighs 30 tons, punch into a wall made of silicon carbide vibranium, throw a large boulder thousands of feet away, and even knock Surtur back, crack part of his crown with his punches. And Surtur is the size of a mountain. He's able to overpower Abomination, easily destroy Loki, overpower Thor, and probably most impressively, stop a Chitauri Leviathan cold of one punch, flip the Leviathan, and completely destroy it. The Leviathan weighing around 1,500 tons. So yeah, Hulk is insanely strong, even if people might think that Hulk got gradually weaker throughout the movies. But the problem for Hulk is that even though he's stronger than each monster individually, the Rampage monsters are crazy strong too, and will use their strength in tandem with one another, considering it's a 3-on-1 fight. During the Rampage in Chicago, George was able to toss around military vehicles like they were basically toys, lift a helicopter with one hand, throw a tank into a helicopter and destroy both of them. He's able to knock over a small building. George is also able to throw Ralph for a considerable distance, even though Ralph weighs 14 tons. He's able to hit Lizzie part of a construction crane, send her tumbling into a building, and knock her out for a good solid minute, even though Lizzie is strong enough to walk through buildings and is insanely durable. Ralph also showed that he could throw on helicopters and easily destroy tanks, but I really want to focus on Lizzie. She was able to casually flip over a ferry and not even really notice that she did it. She easily lifted and tossed around military vehicles with her mouth and plowed straight through the side of a building. Plus, she was able to absolutely manhandle Ralph. Now she decapitated him with a good, strong chomp, which is definitely one of the most impressive string feats in the whole movie. But we'll circle back around to that later. Right now, I gotta talk about durability. Now, Hulk uses the brushed off gunfire of all sorts, and aircraft fire only makes him more angry. He's taken massive attacks and been kicked through buildings by Abomination, thrown by Surtur, and even slammed through the Rainbow Bridge by Fenris. He's taken plenty of hits from Thor, even with Mjolnir, been sent flying through hundreds of feet of metal by Thor, and taken massive punches from Awakened Thor that sent out shockwaves the size of buildings and easily brushed it off. In fact, Hulk has only been knocked out 3 times in the whole MCU. One time he fell from 5.5 miles up in the air, was only momentarily knocked out. Secondly, he's fighting against an Iron Man suit that he had specifically designed to beat him. Rammed through a 50-floor skyscraper and was still only knocked out by a sucker punch after he had already begun to calm down. Lastly, he was knocked out by Thanos, biggest threat in the whole MCU. But if there's one thing the Rampage monsters are good at, besides throwing a rampage, they will take a punch and keep on trucking. These kaiju really are insanely tough. Bullets and most all military attacks obviously do absolutely nothing to them. George and Ralph started a large military explosion like it was nothing, and all 3 of them will easily recover from literally falling down with the Sears Tower. Or I guess it's the Willis Tower now. That's really besides the point. George survived being bitten and dragged around by Ralph, being bitten and slammed down by Lizzie, and Lizzie started taking consistent attacks from George. Really, Lizzie is insanely durable, easily the most durable one on the team. She took repeated grenade blasts to the face, is unharmed by gunfire and rocket launchers, and even got back up after having a whole bunch of grenades going off directly in her gills. And then no one here really relies upon their speed, so it's definitely not going to be the deciding factor here, but I would still say that Hulk is the fastest one out of the bunch. Hulk is fast enough to grab an ejector seat without warning. In a tie-in MCU comic, he grabbed an RPG. He even performed a trimmer tap in the span of Abomination, lifting up his foot, setting on the ground. There's also just a smaller size to take into account. It's going to be a whole lot more agile and maneuverable throughout the fight. Now, if we're being honest here, when I originally came up with this idea, I thought it was going to be a fairly easy victory for the Hulk. I mean, it's the Hulk. Surely he's not going to lose to Rampage. But then I remembered Thor Ragnarok. I remembered Hulk taking on Fenris the Wolf and very nearly dying. He really didn't do too hot in that fight at all. And so it's funny because so much of this fight switches from figuring out how powerful Hulk or the Rampage Monsters are to how powerful Fenris the Wolf is. Because if he's just as powerful as Ralph or the Rampage Monsters, well, let's just say it's not looking too good for the Hulk. I mean, if Fenris is able to damage Hulk with his teeth, surely Ralph and definitely Lizzie can too. Lizzie is a seriously powerful bite. So let's answer the question that we just raised. Just how powerful is Fenris the Wolf? Well, here's the thing. Just because he's a wolf like Ralph doesn't mean it necessarily scales to Ralph. In fact, Fenris scales up to being one of the most powerful beasts in the whole MCU. For starters, Fenris is the steed of the goddess of death, and served with her in countless battles during the time of expansion of Asgard around the Nine Realms. On top of that, let's actually look at Fenris' fight with the Hulk. Fenris was able to take repeated punches from Hulk. These same punches were enough to knock out Thor, stagger Surtur, and kill the giant Leviathan in just one hit. And Fenris took them all remarkably well. Better than Hulkbuster, better than Ultron, and even arguably better than Thor. On top of that, Fenris was able to injure the Hulk. We've already seen how durable the Hulk is. But I really want to focus on the fact that Fenris easily broke through the Rainbow Bridge like it was nothing. The same Rainbow Bridge that took Thor 10 to 15 hits with Mjolnir to break through. So yeah, Fenris isn't comparable to the Rampage Monsters. He's a whole lot more powerful than them. And Hulk still ended up winning the fight. So, end of the day, who's coming out on top? Who's going to win? Well, I think it's got to be the Hulk. I mean, just look at a few of the things that he's done. He's killed a 15,000-ton Chitauri Leviathan in just one punch. He staggered the mountain-sized Surtur with one hit, and he's routinely been shown to be on par with Thor in strength. And when it comes to durability, he's been thrown through skyscrapers, thrown by Surtur, punched around by Thor and Thanos, and so much more. With those showings, he'll definitely be able to take down both George and Ralph. They're just not powerful enough to compare. He'll probably be able to take down Lizzie too, though she definitely will be his toughest competition. But here's the way I see it. George is able to take attacks from Lizzie, block strikes from Lizzie, and even manage to kill Lizzie. Hulk is considerably more powerful than George, and he's definitely at least as smart as a gorilla. So if George can do it, why can't Hulk? I know it's a 3-on-1 fight. I know the Rampage crew is powerful, but I just think Hulk is more powerful, and I'm going to put my stock behind Hulk's power rather than the Rampage's numbers. Hulk's coming out on top here. Hulk wins. But what do y'all think? I would love to hear your thoughts. Sound off in the comments down below. Also, be sure the like button, the subscribe button, turn notifications, join the DanCo army, and I will see y'all next time.